Hello, everyone. It's the 12th of October, and I'm just about to interview Alex Bell, who's 38, and he lives in mid-South Devon. And we did some training, didn't we, online on how to film and edit with your mobile. And I'm doing some courses coming up in London, Paddington, actually, on the 26th of October and the 23rd of November. If anyone's interested, this channel isn't monetized, but I do run events and those training courses. There's still a few places available. Alex, I'm so excited to speak to you because we're going to be talking about PR and journalism, how to write a good press release, how to contact journalists, what makes a good story, how social media has changed sort of traditional media, or I call it old new media. It's basically different media brands. People call it legacy media, corporate media, old media, mainstream media. Then we got social media. It's a very different environment now for somebody like yourself. I worked on a daily I worked on a daily newspaper. You started out in papers at Macclesfield Express on a weekly in 2008, and then you went to the Manchester Evening News as a crime reporter. What a fascinating job! And then made the move into public relations. So you now work with companies and help to promote them. And you talk to them about their media strategy. But there's a lot to talk about. And I've just think a lot of people don't understand how the media works, how journalism works, those words. And I don't know a lot about PR. I know you went to work for an agency, so you were a very senior, experienced reporter. And you obviously had fantastic skills that that agency wanted. And then you started working for dark side, is what journalists call it, don't they? So
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the channel. So tell us a little bit about, firstly, about your career in journalism and why you went into journalism and then the move into PR.
Yeah, well, I went into journalism because I was sort of playing a lot of football and cricket, and that didn't quite work out the way that, going to a different level kind of thing. And it was my grandmother, actually, my dad's mother, who said, "Why don't you give newspapers a shot? I think you'd be pretty good at that." So I gave it a go, and then ended up qualifying and going down the NCTJ is the vocational qualification, and then I got into it after quite a lot of days working for free. Actually, at the
That's what I had to do. Do you mind me asking, did you do the 3 month intensive course for the NCTJ?
no, I did it over. I think it was 9 months. I did it over in
Where
Liverpool.
did you do that? Can you remember?
Liverpool, yeah, the Liverpool Community College, and then I had an internship almost with Liverpool Echo.
It's very difficult to get into journalism. Like you said, I had to work. You have to work for free. You have to real show your passion. So you eventually got a job then, and what was it like? The pay's not very good either, is it?
Not really. But yeah, I mean, the first year when I worked in Macclesfield, it was a fantastic office on the high street in Macclesfield town centre, and there was an outside toilet, and it had a branch roots growing from within the sort of the walls, the cavity. So it was a great experience because I think I just caught journalism just about before like the digital age just really just ramped up and sort of started putting print into the back seat of the car, so to speak, and digital was just coming to fruition.
I
So,
remember my Facebook account was 2007, you see. I remember that's when most people created a Facebook account. So you newspapers were really important still back then, weren't they? 2008, the local paper. Now it's been
yeah,
taken over by a lot by Facebook groups, haven't they? Like where I live. And the volunteer admins are so powerful of these Facebook groups who also almost operate like the local paper used to. So
yeah.
you had shorthand skills, you'd cover the patch. Did you do a lot of work based on people calling the newsroom, or did you have press releases? How did it work? How did you put together? And also applying this to the Manchester Evening News when you went there.
Yeah, well, it was a total combination of everything you just said, really. Sometimes the editor would want you to do something and say, "Come on, go, get to work on that, and come back to me in a few days' time with where you're up to." A good press release might come in, and then you'd sort of work that up and see where you could get with it. Or another one was like my fondest memory, certainly of local news, was interviewing Stephen Morris, from the drummer from New Order, because he lived within the patch. And I thought, I really want to talk to them. I was really into Joy Division at the time, still am. And he surprisingly just said, "Yeah, why don't you come out and have some lunch and we'll have a chat." So I ended up doing a great feature on him. He showed me all his sort of life-size Daleks and tanks that he'd bought that were in his sort of farmyard. And it was just it was fantastic experience, and he was such a good guy, and he was really open and welcoming, and we had a
You
great
know,
chat.
it's like I remember interviewing Ocean Colour Scene, I think it was, and all sorts of different individuals. It's such a fab job, isn't it, journalism? When you're, I mean, I don't know so much what it's like now, but when I was in TV and papers, every day would be different, and you'd learn so much, and you'd meet so many people, and it's it's interesting how the industry's changed. How did you get to the Manchester? So you went from a weekly paper to a daily. Tell me how
Yeah.
that changed. How was that different?
Yeah, well, it was different. It was part of the same newspaper group, the Guardian Media Group at the time, which has since been acquired by Trinity Mirror, which is now called Reach. So it was quite an easy transition. It was just sort of going 20 miles from Macclesfield into the city centre where the Manchester Evening News was based, and that was obviously a um, shall we say, I don't know, a faster pace, just more happening because you're in a city and you've got a wider sort of demographic to cover. Obviously, massive on sport, isn't it, Manchester? And a lot of people in quite a small sort of footprint of a city, really. So there was an awful lot happening, and that was also really enjoyable.
And
Um,
talk about this move to digital. So you were a crime reporter, but it was when I was in newspapers, I think I had to write 9 articles a day or something. I just send them through, write them, send them through. What happened when things started going digital? Because I remember, I've got good friends at the Citizen newspaper about it going online, and like it then became a battle for numbers on the website. Can you tell us a little bit about that transition and how you had to get things out quickly and accurately? Being a crime reporter, goodness me, that was me. Your media law would have come in handy for that, wouldn't it?
yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, the transition now with digital was huge because not only were you working fast and maybe not going out quite as much as well, so you were at your desk a lot more than you used to be. But it was, yeah, it was just a big learning experience because no one really knew what direction it was gonna take and what the requirements were. It was just about all of a sudden seeing transparency of, oh, there's this many people on the website at the moment reading this article. Where of course with papers before it was a circulation where you'd put a certain amount out in the community and you'd never really know what people read. There wouldn't be
Absolutely.
that.
And it wasn't it one paper they used to work out if you printed and sold one paper, it'd be read by three people. So they could
Yeah,
always say circulation was three times more than each paper that was sold. But then you're right, you went to the website and it was all there. And it was an unknown time. And I remember talking to my friend who was a news editor at a daily, and it was all like, how are we going to compete with the TV? Because it was always the papers had to have stronger stories because they came out the next day. So the TV and radio, I felt, were always weaker on exclusives. So instead of, yeah, so you were like, oh, we're immediate now. Our
yeah,
content will be out immediately. And
yeah,
then, because I was in TV for a long time, we'd always look at the papers, especially because we couldn't always go to court, so court reporting or things like that. And you just double check. Do you know what I'm talking about, right? You,
yeah, yeah,
do you know when you're a journalist and you're like, all right, I've got to cover this court report, I've got to cover this breaking story. Do you ever look at other journalists and just to check that
yeah.
you're on the right lines? But I remember the way we had to get breaking stories out, but accurately. It was all about that, wasn't it? It was about getting that story out first, but obviously not cocking up. Um,
Yeah.
and when newspapers could publish on the day, then you became more competitive, I guess, with the broadcast industry. We were kind of closely aligned. And then I've even seen traditional newspaper reporters doing Facebook videos and Facebook lives. And I've tried to assist, I've done some training before with journalists in South Wales on that. And my friend said, Anna, they're good newspaper reporters, but that doesn't mean they're going to be good presenters. Um, and I know we did some training. So did you do a lot of video content in the newspapers world in Manchester Evening News when you were in there?
No, and I'm glad I didn't, because I'd kind of gone into business by that point when Facebook Live started coming to fruition. And I was really glad, because I don't think that was quite for me. I did do some video stuff with certain stories that I'd got that were more on the exclusive side. But that wasn't me reporting as such, like you will have done so many times. That was more of a, like a wrap-up video where I would talk to the person who was talking to me, but it wasn't like a live thing. It was, so I could get it wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't want to really be in front of a video, because I think that is
You can't. I was a terrible newspaper reporter. I was when I was at the Guernsey Press, because I'm dyslexic. They put me on the ad section. That's when I did broadcast journalism, because I realised I wasn't a great writer. I've tried really hard. I do. I like communicating, but it's just you have to know what your strengths are. What I wanted to talk to you about is, obviously I used to work with press releases and TV news. I get a press release and then have to turn that into a 2-minute news package, one every day, really. I want to talk to you and ask you how to write a good press release, because I have people contact me with lots of stories, and I'm going to be doing more on this. People send me a direct message on Twitter, and I'll say, can you try and put this into a couple of sentences and explain what happened? And we can try and turn that into a press release. And I have had some success. There's a lady I work with. We got her on ITV this morning. Someone else got into a national paper in Scotland. A couple of people I've worked with. How do you write a good press release? Can an individual citizen journalist or individual just do that?
It's a great question. Is this in terms of just any individual that something has happened, or is it?
So, for example, a lady was raising money. She had terminal cancer. She had a GoFundMe page, and I turned that into a press release, and we got some media coverage. So, if you've got, say, you're in a situation, it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be trying to raise money for a local community project. It could be a story of injustice or abuse, or you could be a whistleblower. And people contact the media. Should they just send an email and explain what happened if they're contacting the news desk or a journalist, or should they try and write a press release? What would you recommend if someone felt they had an important story for a news organisation?
Yeah, in terms of something, personally, what I would recommend, if it's something that is quite serious, that is affecting a person or people or a lot of people, then I think it's best to just get in contact with a professional and tell them what's happened. Like the old phoning, when you used to phone, people used to phone newspapers and say, this has just happened. There's been a car crash, or I've heard gunshots.
So they're still receptive to that. So you say, because when I worked in ITV in Oxford, for example, we used to get calls and we used to turn them into stories. You'll just say, just call the news desk, just call the media organisation and tell them what happened.
Yeah, I think on that side of it, yeah. I mean, I work in business now and have done for the best part of 10 years. So I'm not as current on the human interest, shall we say, of the typical driver of any news cycle. I'm not as involved with that anymore. I get it. I understand exactly how it works because I've had so much experience in it. But now it is all about businesses and people.
Obviously they're looking for a good story, and I see all the time, have you got a story? We pay for stories, we pay for videos. All these media brands, the Sun, the Mail, etc., are trying to get the best out there because it increases their views and engagement, doesn't it? But I guess as an individual, you can still contact a media organisation. I mean, what can I ask you then? You just mentioned human interest. What makes a good story, and how do media organisations choose whether or not to cover? Say you've sent a press release, or an individual has contacted them. How do they choose the running order, and what makes a good story in your opinion?
Oh, in my opinion, well, I think every person on planet Earth has got a story, haven't they? And it's if someone is willing to put themselves out there for whatever purpose, whether it's for to promote their business, promote themselves, promote other people, I think I'm always sort of deeply interested, really, in people and why they are how they are and what has caused them. What events have happened in their life to to put them in the way they present themselves on any given day or moment. I think that is fascinating. So the person is always the driver of any story. People are more interesting than businesses, for example, aren't they? Because they're the ones who have created it and are driving it forward and are coming up with different ideas to make it a better business, so they can secure their income for the now and for the future and all that kind of thing. So, and have impact. I think, to answer your question, it's about like, who am I? What did I do? And it's a really nice process when you actually talk or you listen to someone talking about their life, and that you can soon get to like key points of what has happened and shaped this person up to the point where the story might be like that's happening now, that we've got a story on our hands, but this is the backstory, and this makes it even more interesting. So I think,
but we're interested in certain things, aren't we? Like you did crime. People are interested in crime reporter. They're interested in it because they think, how does this going to affect me? Am I living in a safe environment? They're also interested in particular cases. But in terms of good journalism and news front page stories, what do you think sets the agenda? Did you ever get to the bottom of that? Because I found that interesting. How you choose the lead story.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in a position of editor at any point, but I always found that fascinating, how the lead story would emerge. But in my opinion, if it was something so shocking that had happened and it was true and it was real, then that is going to be a front page story, of course. But usually it would be based on the amount of people that are impacted by the story that would lead, certainly in the newspaper world. So yeah, it tended to be crime, or it tended to be, might be a
I
rise.
find it interesting. I don't think that they've saw. I watched. I don't know if you watch the news and you see various different campaigns, like the things that impact everyone. I think the BBC try to do that more. If it's tax or the NHS waiting list, for example. But then they can go and lead on Hugh Edwards for day after day. Obviously that it's interesting. I don't think they've really cracked it personally. I don't know. It's and trending. So obviously the world now, this is what's so fascinating, is the people can decide what the top story is. When you look at Twitter, for example, and what's trending, you get an idea of what things people are interested in. So are you interested in this? Are you talking about it because the media are talking about it, or because you genuinely are? Do you know what I mean? That's what I find fascinating, and how we can set our own news agenda and talk. We are now in such powerful positions as content creators, aren't we? On our own channels, and that's something that I'm excited about talking about. You obviously work for companies now. You do still write, though. 30% of your time you're still doing journalism.
Yeah.
But you also work in PR. Explain what PR is for people that don't understand.
Well, public relations, I always believed when I first got into it, I was like, what is this? Well, like, this is like quite serious now, because I really took working for newspapers really seriously. I was quite proud. And for me to make that move was quite a big thing. But it was good and it worked. And it was apparently the definition is insurance of reputation. That is the official sort of when public relations first came to mind as such, like hundreds of years ago, that was what it was. And yeah, I see it as that. And there's obviously a lot of things that you can do to ensure your reputation. There's a number of different stories you can tell. There's the certain concise wording. You can, one word can make a difference, can't it? One word on a Twitter account of certainly a company of certain profile. There's customers, plenty of customers. It could sink them. So you start getting an indication.
So it's not just promotion. So PR isn't just promoting a business; it's protecting its reputation. So when those big, massive storms happen to a brand, for example, Nigel Farage and NatWest, that's called crisis communications. But they would when you'd bring in PR to handle that. Is that more? Is that PR more rather than promotion?
I think it's everything. I mean, it's whatever you want it to be in your head, isn't it? If people can box it off as something fluffy, they can say, "Oh yeah, you're just promoting brands." Yes, there is that out there, and I believe there are some people, plenty of people working in the industry who don't necessarily get it, what it's really all about. I believe I do. I believe I do it pretty well. And I think that there's a lot of strands to it. It's what you've just said. It is the promotion, and obviously shining the company and its people, or whatever it may be, in the best light possible. But it's that reputational aspect that's the most important.
But you can't, you work for a company, for example. Do you monitor every tweet they send, every post they put out? Do you keep on top of all the employees and what they share? Potential reputational risks are everywhere, aren't they? We've seen with the BBC and Gary Lineker, for example, and other members of freelance or staff sharing their opinions on issues. How can you control and manage the reputation of an organisation where there are so many people and so much publication?
Yeah, well, we're talking here. The context of it is important. That I don't work with Amazon, for example. That requires hundreds of people to be monitoring that. I just couldn't do that. So I'm not going to work with blue chip companies unless it be a very specific, tailored project that I might be able to have some influence on and come in and advise, and just add an extra layer to whatever they were doing. I work with SMEs. So, in my position, you cannot monitor absolutely everything. You couldn't, because you'd just be working 24 hours a day. And, I work on my own and just outsource certain things that I'm either too busy to do, or maybe there's someone else who's better than me at doing a certain aspect,
Of course. And if you were working with a client, say I had a business, what kind of business? Describe one of the SMEs you work for. What kind of company would you work for?
Well, the company, one of the companies I work for is called Urbanchain, and it's a renewable energy technology company. It basically allows people, companies, organizations to create a local energy market amongst themselves. And that's where the energy market is going. It's becoming decentralized, for example, and they are right on the cusp of the cutting edge side of that. So they're a company that deeply sort of fascinates me, and it's great to be involved in. They're fantastic people.
Something you care about. You can see it's passionate about.
Because it's good for the planet, and they are making a difference, and they will do.
Do you invest your time in talking to, say, for example, the local BBC radio, BBC local TV, the local paper, or do you spend time on their direct broadcasting on their own channels, such as Instagram and Facebook and Twitter? Where do you invest your time? Where do you think is the best place to invest your time in terms of results?
As we speak, it's varied over the last few years, but as we speak now, it is mainly around engaging with the press. And yes, there's some stuff I do some of the content on their website, but mainly the stuff I do that engages with the press ends up going on their website, just to give it that feel, that current feel. But the most important thing is picking out different stories that they have available to them at any given time.
When you say the press, what do you mean by the press? Working with the press for these stories?
Yes, well, it depends what the story is. For example, a few months ago, they had Urbanchain had an investment from like a global investment firm called Urbanchain, a French firm. So that particular story is very business investment led, and there are of course magazines, online trade publications that cater for that, which is read by CEOs, different investors, executives at different levels. So with that particular story, we go out to that press. We don't go out to ITV or
because it's the right people, isn't it? You've got it, and people I think sometimes think, I want the views and engagement. I want it to be big. I want to get viral. All you need is, for example, if I got 100 views on a LinkedIn video, that's very low. But if 10 people hired me from watching that. It's got to the right eyes, hasn't it? People forget. But think about what's the purpose of what you're doing and who do you want to reach?
Exactly. Why are we doing this? And be real. I'm always very honest with whoever I work with, because they might come to me and say, "Oh, I think we've got to go for the broadcast arena with this one," and I just like, there's no chance. It's not that isn't going to happen with this particular one. But I'll let you know if we keep talking. Our relationship's fantastic. Let's keep being open about what you're doing.
Why then? Why did you say that it wasn't any good for broadcast?
Oh no, I'm just giving an example where a client or someone working in the business environment might come to you and say, "We want to be on TV for this."
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is the spin master though. I mean, do you think you can turn any story, because things can be very dry, and I had to do this. This was my talent in TV. I'd get a press release and I'd be like, I was one when I did a freelance shift in Birmingham, and this press release was this cafe had said that every product was all about plums because it was the plum season in Worcestershire. I turned up at this cafe and there was nothing to see. There was no story. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because I have to come back to the office with a story here. So I tried my very best and to make the story, because that's the talent, isn't it, of PR? And sometimes it's quite dry. It's not particularly very visual. It's not very exciting. And you can always find a story. That's the talent, isn't it, to do that?
Yeah, I think it is. But I think that usually falls into the consumer side of PR. So that is working with big brands, let's just say Coca-Cola, for example, where they can have more fun. They can pull more like stunts and come up with initiatives, big budgets, that kind of thing. But when you're dealing in the business world, it all gets very political as well. So they might want to go on broadcast on TV or radio, but at the same time, you've got to say, well, the conversation could open in this way, or it could go that way. Do you want to do this? Because you could end up sort of flunking the interview, really, and it not working. And then all of a sudden a question comes up, which is highly political. And you don't want to get involved in that because your company has got procedures and policies that don't align themselves with that. So it's all very careful on that side. If it's fun, no problem.
Yeah.
You got
for anyone, because I work a lot with small individuals or people who work completely on their own in business, or maybe doing citizen journalism. What tips would you give someone for writing a good headline or grabbing people in to watch their content or to read their blog? What kind of tips can you give to people who are working on their own on, say, social media, new media?
Well, if it's funny and it affects a lot of people, that's humour is obviously a winner, isn't it? But strong human interest stories of people telling them about themselves, about I think people have got to be pretty open. It's not for me, that kind of thing. I'm not. If you went on my social media feeds, they're pretty boring, really. I don't like doing that. Well, some people are different, aren't they? And they're much more relaxed about being out there and talking about whatever it may be. But for people who are prepared to do that, then. Yeah, it's looking at more what is the most interesting thing to a lot of people that you have that is happening.
That's going to stand out. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And then be prepared to tell them something about yourself, that may link to that and enhance that story. I think that side of it usually wins.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. And obviously, what's important as well is accuracy in terms of anyone's brand, isn't it? Because we are all content creators now, and I think it's good to check stuff before you share it and get your facts right and things like that. I think. Do you think just to finish off, really? Do you think social new media is having a big impact on the world of journalism as you and I kind of knew it? I mean, you started in 2008, I started in 2001, I think it was. Do you think social media has completely transformed that environment and mainstream media environment.
Yeah, entirely, and it controls large elements of it. If you look, one algorithm change by Facebook can put news feeds much lower on individuals' accounts on Facebook, and that changes everything because they have a lot of media organizations usually have now, ones of any size, have targets of the amount of eyes they're going to get on digital stories, because that's what's been obviously sold to online advertisers. Is they need to guarantee they're hitting certain targets to fund the journalism that's out there. And if one algorithm changed by Facebook can put that lower down on people's feeds, where goodness knows how many less people will actually see that news feed, then it's highly significant. Yeah,
It is, isn't it? It's very interesting. It's a very, very interesting environment at the minute. Well, thank you very much for sharing your experience, Alex. I really appreciate it. And to help people understand a little bit more about what public relations is and journalism, and what they can learn and what they can do in terms of their own broadcasting. And we can get hold of you at your website. What's your website and details about what you do?
yeah. It's bellpress.co.uk. And then Alex, my email is alex@bellpress.co.uk, and you can have a look on there. You'd get a good flavour of what I do.
Thank you so much for explaining the world of PR and a little bit about media as well to us. You take care now. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.